In 2022, I was overweight and I was stuck in a relationship I didn't really want to be a part of anymore. Flash forward just a year and I had completely rebuilt myself. I changed my body, my hair, and my style. And for a while, it worked. I went from struggling to get a single date to having more options than I knew what to do with. But a strange part is now, after all that, and even after going through plastic surgery, I don't even go on as many dates as I did back then. And it's not because dating apps stopped working for me. I still get plenty of matches. It's because I realized having more options isn't the solution I was looking for. And to understand why I overcorrected so hard, you have to understand where I was starting from. In 2022, I was in a relationship that I should have ended a long time ago. I did a lot of what low option men tend to do. I clung to my only available option because I thought that was the best I could do. I stayed in our relationship not because I was actually happy with it, but because I was afraid of starting over. I was afraid that I couldn't find someone else. We had started dating back in high school, and in the beginning it was okay. I just wanted a girlfriend at that time, and she was the convenient option. But over time, I realized that you need more than convenience for a relationship to last. Eventually, I decided that I no longer wanted to half-ass my life anymore. I knew that if I wanted to do better, I needed to take dating apps seriously. Back in 2019, I had tried dating apps before. At that time, all I did to prepare was lose 5 pounds and take some pictures during a spring break trip. And I did horrible. I got 20 matches and none of them went anywhere. To make matters worse, I had also gotten fat during COVID. I was almost 200 pounds, the worst shape I had ever been in my life. So this time, I made sure to lock in. I didn't just make a few small improvements. I made sure to completely transform myself. My mindset at the time was that dating is arguably one of the most important things in your life. In fact, most people spend the majority of their adult lives with their partner. So it's not something you should approach casually. And I already knew what happens when I did it the easy way, and that led me to my lowest point. So the first thing I did is I ended up hiring a coach to help with my weight loss. I had tried multiple times throughout 2021 and 2022 to lose the weight, but I just wasn't consistent enough and I would lose some weight and gain it back again. But hiring a coach helped give me the consistency and accountability that I needed to finally lose the weight. Besides losing weight, I also got LASIK and I also improved my hairstyle. I ended up paying $200 for a hair consultation, and I also put a lot more thought into fashion and the clothes that I was wearing. Previously, my wardrobe was completely designed by my mom. I went for a cleaner, minimalistic, and more Korean-inspired aesthetic. At a high level, I wanted to make sure my appearance was on point. Once I had that part settled, now it was time to take the photos. So I ended up looking for any opportunity to get photos while hanging out with my friends. In the end, I even paid for me and my friend to go down to Miami to take photos over a weekend because I really wanted some shirtless pool shots. These were some of the photos I got in Miami. And with that, my profile was complete. I was basically treating dating like my job. I didn't just throw some photos together for my camera roll like most guys do. Every single photo was curated, and I prepared for months to look good in them. I also gave my photos a final touch with FaceApp. In hindsight, I may have went a little overboard at that time. I wasn't really intending to catfish with these pictures. I was really just trying to optimize as much as possible. Now you might be thinking, you shouldn't have to try so hard for dating, but you actually should. For men, dating is a competition, and this is supported by genetic studies. Prehistorically, the majority of men did not reproduce, while the majority of women did. So it makes sense today that you need to put in the effort. Once I got all my photos, I started swiping on the apps. I wanted to maximize my chances, so I paid for all the subscriptions and I was on multiple apps. And I spent hours per day swiping and messaging girls. I was also willing to spend money on dinner dates, and I felt like that really helped my chances. At that stage, I wasn't really expecting anything specific. I was just trying to get more experience, so I didn't really have much standards. And because of all the effort and the preparation that I put into it, it worked well. And for a while, it worked almost too well. Compared to 2019, it was a completely different game. I went from getting 20 matches in 2 months to getting 20 to 30 matches per day. In the first few months of using the apps, I got over 2,000 matches on Tinder and hundreds more on other apps. Of course, this was because I didn't really have much standards and I was putting in so much effort every single day. Because I was going on dates every day, I even had to use a spreadsheet to track which days I was free and which days I had a date with a particular girl. I once even had 3 dates in a single day. I was essentially trying to maximize the amount of experience I could be gaining. It was almost like I was treating dating like an RPG and I was trying to max out all my stats. I also made a video about the first dirty woman that I dated during that time. So if you're interested in that, it's linked right here. I even met my next girlfriend 2 weeks into using the apps, but looking back, I jumped too fast again. We weren't very compatible, so it didn't last long. I had more options at that point, but I still lacked the experience and judgment to use them properly. So what actually changed that resulted in a drastic improvement in my results? Your dating results are primarily dependent on 3 factors: your value, your effort, and your standards. You generally will need at least 2 of these to get good results in dating. But in my case, my results exploded because I not only drastically increased my perceived value to women, but I also put in a lot of effort and I had low standards. At first, I thought I had finally solved dating apps, but in hindsight, I had barely scratched the surface. The mistake was thinking that I would be satisfied with just this. Some guys might be with all the volume, but not me. It wasn't enough. Over the next 2 years, I went on over 100 dates and I had dozens of situationships and I spent thousands, probably over 10K in dating expenses. Very early on in the process, dating stopped feeling like a mystery and more like logistics. I had hundreds of conversations open, dozens of dates scheduled, and not enough time or energy to treat each match like it mattered. Over time, I realized that the dates that tend to go well felt effortless. The conversations were easy and the girl was easy to get along with. I experienced the pattern that most guys have heard about by now, that it seems like the less effort you put into a girl, the more she likes you. But that's not necessarily true. The truth is, when a woman is interested in you, she is more tolerant of your low effort. It is not that low effort causes women to like you more. You're just observing the correlation between women who like you and their tolerance of your low effort. And because of that, I began to associate low effort with success. I had gradually started optimizing for high interest, low friction dating. I would send the same messages, pick the same dating spots. I stopped offering dinner dates, only drink dates. It was like a plug and play. Having so much volume and abundance trained me to optimize for efficiency. But that phase didn't last long because eventually I got bored. At first, getting more dating experience was exciting, but once I had more of those experiences, it just became normal. When something is too easily obtainable, it becomes normalized and then it's no longer rewarding to obtain. So eventually I stopped caring as much about volume and I started wanting higher quality dates. In the beginning, I just wanted more experience, but eventually I wanted better experiences. And to do that, I thought I needed to look better. I already looked pretty good in my photos, but because of all the optimization, I felt they didn't really match how I looked in person. Eventually, I ended up getting plastic surgery, which I cover more in depth in this video. I had intended for surgery to unlock the next level, but by the time I recovered from surgery a year later, I had lost interest in dating. And that's how I ended up in this situation, looking better than I did before, but now I'm barely going on dates because I feel like they're no longer worth my time or money. The first jump in my results occurred because I increased my value, my effort, and lowered my selectivity all at the same time. But the second jump didn't really have the same effect because I was only increasing one variable, value, while decreasing the others. The improvement in the app was limited because my photos were already pretty optimized before, and the improvement in real life was not enough to overcome my higher standards. Before I was high effort and persistent, but now I'm much more selective and I'm much less tolerant of low interest behavior from women. Once I had higher standards for not only how women looked, but also how they act, I did not really have much viable options left. So even though my value went up, if my effort went down and my selectivity went way up, that doesn't really help. There's certainly more I can do to improve my value. I can make more money, improve my status, become even more attractive. But I already know that that's probably another trap. If I want to keep my high standards, I can't just increase my value. I have to also be willing to put in effort where it matters. The goal is not to have infinite options. The goal is to have the right ones.